when Tim Walz was announced as the pick for vice president for Kamala Harris. What did you know about him, if anything?
I have family in Iowa, which is right below Minnesota, and they had actually been so I had known a little bit about Tim Walz because he had passed the Free and Reduced Lunch Act, making like all of school lunch free in Minnesota, which was a pretty big deal because it influenced surrounding states making like similar policy. Um, so I was a bit familiar with him, and I actually thought that he was a pretty moderate choice for the campaign because I mean Minnesota is I wouldn't necessarily describe him as socialist. Like Minnesota itself is a pretty big business state, so I thought it was a good choice.
So I've been following Tim Walz for a while because he's in a neighboring state, and I think that that was a terrible choice because he's essentially just another extremely progressive candidate. He just has kind of nice vibes, and I think that that's what they're kind of counting on. But I think that that's extremely problematic for the direction of what Harris is trying to put together for her campaign because there were a lot of people on the fence who maybe would have considered a Harris voting for Harris over Trump if she had picked a moderate like maybe Josh Shapiro. But I think that by doubling down on the most progressive wing of the party is a bad decision for her campaign and for like the direction if she gets elected.
I'd like to say that I've known Tim Walz for I say a couple years now, and I've known Tim Walz to be a governor that he actually did have to work with a Republican legislature for I think maybe the first couple years of his term, and he was also I say in congressional circles considered a moderate by most people in Congress on the Democratic side at least. He was the chair of the Veterans Affairs Committee. I think that he was a great pick, and a lot of people. Are trying to paint him, especially Donald Trump, are trying to paint him as a radical liberal, and JD Vance also saying radical. He's basically a San Francisco liberal packaged in a Midwestern body. But they say this, but going back, there's actual video, call footage, or sorry, audio of Donald Trump saying, "Well, I think that Tim Walz handled the Minneapolis riots great. I think he did a great job." And now they're trying to attack him on these same points. So it just doesn't add up to me. So do you like him or do you not like him? So that's how I would paint how they view him on the other side.
I think Tim Walz was overall not very recognized, but I think that's a very good thing because, as we've seen with JD Vance, if you do have a strong track record in one way or the other, you can really mess up the rest of the campaign for your candidate. So having a lack of major bad decisions on his record is a really good thing. And that may come at the sacrifice of not having major national presence as well.
If any of you are chronically online, like I have to be for this job, you have maybe seen Kamala HQ. That is the TikTok, Instagram, Twitter handle for Kamala Harris's social media team, social media campaign. Kamala HQ has done what seems to be a good job of painting Tim Walz as this American dad, pictures of him at the state fair holding pigs. Do you think this social media hype generated by Kamala HQ and Stan accounts for Tim Walz and even Kamala Harris will last into November? Or do you think this is a temporary thing?
I think that the social media comments are really getting the attention of young voters and people who are chronically online, like many, 18 to 24-year-olds. But I think that on the liberal side of things, it's nice that they're adhering to the younger generation. But on the conservative side, it's kind of embarrassing seeing our presidential candidates be doing TikTok trends because it's just really not painting us in a great picture as the United States as a whole. And those things are going to be out there forever. So when they win, it's just like if they win, it's kind of embarrassing almost. I just don't think it's very professional and I don't love it, but they are getting the attention of many young voters, which is what they're trying to do. So
I think the social media campaign just doubles down on the voters who are already going to support Kamala Harris. And I think that what Harris needed to do with her VP pick was expand her base because that is exactly what Trump did not do.
I think, again, it brings me back to my earlier point about, I don't know if anybody is ever going to say, oh yeah, I voted for Walz because he made this tweet 3 years ago. But I do think the characterization is very, very important. Walz doesn't feel pretentious. He doesn't feel condescending. He feels like someone warm, someone you can go to the state fair with. And for social media, it's very important to help build that persona, that characterization.